What's the truth about heroin? Can the addict ever really recover, or is he doomed for the rest of his life? The answer to these questions are shocking and brutal, but I think we have to face them.
Confidential File. A report by Paul Coates, one of the nation's distinguished news reporters, brings you a factual report on America today, its people and their lives.
Before we talk about the problems of the addict's recovery, I think we should talk about addiction itself. Just what kind of a life is it? For the answer to that question, I want to show you a film of a previous Confidential File interview. If you saw the telecast, you'll remember the girl. She was telling me how it feels to be an addict.
Well, I've never had such pain in all my life. I've had ruptured appendix, but that don't even come close to the pain that you have when you're kicking your habit. Every nerve and every bone in your body is just twitching and just crying out for some kind of relief. You get horrible pains in your stomach, and you get the monkey on your back. It's just terrible.
Suppose for a moment you're an addict. Suppose you have a $40 a day habit. You're broke, and you haven't had a fix since yesterday. You've got the yen, and you're broke. It's not the first time you've been up against it for a fix. It happens to every hype. When you're up against it, you hustle or you mooch. And right now, you're on the mooch. You look up your connection. You know it isn't going to be easy, but you've got to make him for a fix. You've spent thousands with him, thousands of dollars. You've dealt with him for almost a year, and that's a long time in his business. You've brought him other hypes, but you've been on the nut with him for almost a week now, and you know the end is near. It isn't going to be easy. So you've got your story all ready for him, and it's got to be good. Your eyes are watering and your nose is beginning to run. You know that within a few hours, if you don't make a fix, you'll be screaming in the agony of the kicks. But talking to a dope pusher when your pockets are empty is like talking to the dead. He's not interested in your problems. He's not interested in your pain. He's not interested in your life. He's interested in cash. Coldly, unshakably, he tells you the answer is no. If you want junk, get out and hustle up some money. He figures you're a lousy risk, and secretly, you know he's right. Your habit's gotten too big to support, no matter how recklessly you try to score. You know that you're reaching the most terrifying phase of addiction, the time when your habit goes overboard and you've got to kick. So you beg, you degrade yourself, knowing it's useless, but knowing, too, that you put down your pride long ago when you first picked up the spike. You don't even feel angry when you finally give up. You just feel scared. The world isn't populated with people anymore. It's a dark, screaming alley of fear. It's a torture chamber where the thing you need most, the thing you've got to have, is within a few feet of your aching body, but forbidden by a pane of glass and a prowl car turning the corner. Everywhere you turn, you see money, but you don't steal it. It isn't morality that inhibits you. You've stolen before to feed your habit, and you'd gladly steal now. Maybe you'd even kill. But you're shaky, and you can't find the right setup. You've seen other hypes go crazy and grab, and you don't want to shake it out cold in jail. Your time is running out. You've got to do something. Most types have tried it at one time or another. It doesn't work very often, but you're desperate. You tell her you're sick and you're in terrible pain. Could you see a doctor? You're telling the truth, of course. You're not only sick, but you're going to get a lot sicker unless something is done for you. You feel a little like an actor about to go on for his biggest performance. And if the play's a flop, you're dead. The fear rises again in your belly. You may be close to a score now. You know there's stuff in that cabinet, good stuff to drown out the horror that's creeping through your limbs. The doc seems like a pretty square Joe. Maybe he'll go for it. You tell him you're in terrible pain. It's a kidney stone. You've had it for years. Every once in a while it kicks up on you and you almost die. It hurts so bad. The doctor always gives you a shot of something that makes the pain go away. You're careful not to mention the word morphine. That might make him suspicious. You put on a good show for him, but he tells you to take off your coat. No need for that, Doc. Why bother to take off the coat when you already know what the trouble is? It's a kidney stone. If he'll just give you a shot, you'll clear out and let him get back to work. The least the guy could do is give you a break. When he examines your eyes, you know you're in trouble. He suspects you're a user. This time he doesn't ask you to take off your coat. He tells you. You start talking fast, but you know it's no use. He'll find the brand, the trademark of your sickness. There it is, the snake, the scars. He tells you he's sorry, you won't be getting any shot. And again you beg, you level with him. He knows what a narcotics withdrawal is like. Can't he give you just one fix? You won't bother him again, you'll get back on your feet. But the answer is no. They can't and they won't make your addiction more comfortable. But if you really want to put the stuff down, you can commit yourself for treatment. You make a decision to try it. It's a decision born of pain, fear, despair. But it's a good decision. Kick it. That's what they say, and that's what you do as the gross convulsions of pain sweep through your body. The withdrawal has begun. Your belly cramps unbearably. Your body pours sweat. You're racked by dry heaves. You're shaken by the tendrils of 1,000 pains. Like a stricken animal, you burrow into the bed. Instinctively, you try to hide your pain, to suffocate it. You panic. The slightest noise sounds like an avalanche. You seek the cold hardness of the floor in the hope that its discomfort will diffuse the terror that's inside you, but it doesn't help. When it gets this bad, it's dangerous. You're liable to begin beating your head against the wall or biting your tongue. You're not a man now, you're an animal in pain, and you've got to be protected from yourself. They put you in restraints. They have to. The restraints don't bother you. If you're conscious of anything now, it's only of a desire to die. And so you begin a timeless, formless interlude of pain. To the nurse who fills out your chart, it'll be 6 or 7 more days. To you, it'll be longer than forever. On the 4th or 5th day, you'll be able to look at food, but you probably won't be able to eat it yet. When the waves of pain begin to recede, you'll find that your body is sore and that your muscles are utterly without strength. Your voice is weak and trembling. You're like a baby. To take a sip of orange juice is a major project, and when you've accomplished it, you feel as if you've done a hard day's work. The kicks are ended, you're over the hump, but the stuff is still in your system and you've got a long way to go before you're physically withdrawn from narcotics. At least you can rest now. When the doctor asks you how you feel about it, you tell him there's one thing for sure, you never want to go through this again. He points out that you never will if you don't get hooked again. You begin thinking about that, about never getting hooked again. You're beginning to feel a little bit human. You can eat, you can sleep, you're even doing a little reading. And you're kind of comfortable. You like not having to spend all your time planning a hustle to pay for the next fix. You feel kind of free. Maybe there was something to what the doc said about never getting hooked again. But how do you go about it? Just before they let you out of the hospital, you have a talk with a man, a social worker or something. He asks what your plans are, and when you tell him you don't have any, he gives you some tips. He tells you your problem is just beginning now that you're physically off the junk, that the problem is now mental and a lot tougher than anything you've had up to this point. Above all else, he tells you to stay away from the crowd, from the hypes and pushers and hustlers. They're poison. The man said keep busy, didn't he? You had to have a job, and you found out that after years as a hype there wasn't much you could do in the way of high-paying work, so you're pearl diving. You're still slightly rum-dum, but this you can handle. At least it keeps your mind off the yen. The man said get yourself a hobby, something to keep you occupied, so you're giving it a try. You haven't done anything like this since you were a kid, and it's kind of fun. It's tough enough to be a challenge, and when you get something through your skull, you get a real sense of achievement. You spend every evening like this except for a movie once in a while. But dirty dishes and diagrams don't add up to a very complete life. The man knew that when he recommended them. He would have liked to arrange a job for you in another city to set up clinical outpatient treatment for you with professional counseling and guidance. He didn't do it because he couldn't. There was no program to help the addict straighten up. So after a few days or weeks or months, you get full up to here of dirty dishes and diagrams. Oh, you haven't changed your mind about going straight, but you're sick of four walls. You're no hermit. You wander aimlessly, at least you think you're wandering aimlessly. Until suddenly you realize where you are. You're in the old neighborhood at the old hangout. You see your old connection and you're scared. You're scared because suddenly you need a fix. You're scared because you've got the yen.
I don't know what the average life expectancy of a narcotic addict is. I do know it isn't very long. The man you're about to meet is an anomaly. He's lived long beyond his allotted time. I have your first name, please.
Joseph Angelo.
Your age, Joe?
59.
Joe, how long have you been a narcotics user?
Since 1911.
Be since you were about 15, 16 years old, huh?
15.
15. Tell me a little bit about it, will you?
Well, I got started. We were young kids, gang. We used to go to dance halls, and from there we'd leave and go to Chinatown and have Chinese food. And more or less in them days, Chinatown was wide open, and wasn't long before we was hitting hop joints and started smoking hop, once a week, and gradually increase, and so I be smoking regular.
What kind of narcotics have you used in addition to opium?
Oh, I've used morphine, heroin, cocaine.
Well, why did you use more than one drug? Why didn't you stick just to the one drug?
Well, at first I did until when opium was hard to get, and the new drug come on the market, it was come from Germany, it was called heroin at the time, and it was supposed to be non-habit forming.
What's the longest period you've ever been without narcotics?
What, 3.5 years, I'd say.
When was that?
Oh, that's when I was doing a jail up in Folsom.
What was the charge?
Well, it was narcotics.
Selling?
No, it was a burglary job, but it was narcotics.
Have you ever peddled dope, Joe?
Yes, I peddled dope years ago. I got arrested for it, and then I cut it out.
In the early days of your addiction, did you try to give the stuff up?
No, not too much. I've taken a few cures in the early days, but I went right back on it.
How many times do you think you've tried a cure, Joe?
Well, I would say I took a dozen cures voluntarily, and the others would be if I get picked up on the street by the PD or something like that, going in the hospital, or
you take the forced withdrawal.
And
how long after you'd take a withdrawal were you able to, or for how long were you able to stay off it?
Well, as soon as I got out, I got stuff.
Can I see your arms, Joe?
Yeah.
What about this over here? Is that a burn, or is that
No, it's
needle marks?
needle
No, I mean
marks.
over here.
That's a burn there. All
this is
marks,
marks,
all marks. Both arms, all the veins are gone.
I guess there's not a vein in your body where you haven't made injections, is there?
I couldn't find a vein off. I wanted one.
Where are some of the places you've shot, Joe?
Well, veins in my feet, legs, arms, wherever I could find a vein, I got to it some way until it wore out, and then started shooting in the skin.
How have you supported your habit over the years, Joe?
Well, mostly hustling, thieving, and so on.
How many times you been arrested?
Offhanded, I'd say about 100 times.
And I guess you're now in the same squeeze as you've always been between the habit
Well,
and the
no,
law.
a little better now. I contracted TB, and I got cavities in my right lung, and I get it legally from a doctor.
Under a legal prescription?
Under a legal prescription.
How many hypes have you known who were able to quit the narcotics habit, Joe?
Well, I don't know. Only a couple that are supposed to quit. I ain't too sure if they quit or not. That's hypes that use stuff through any length of time.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible for a hype to quit?
Yeah, you young, healthy kid, stuff 8 months to a year, and you got at him and made him take a cure. If he was arrested and it took a cure that way, why, he'd be clean when he come out, and if he wanted to quit, he could stay off the stuff.
How about you?
Well, I'm broke down, and no chance for me. I'm just one of the lost.
There are many hospitals in this country that treat drug addicts. The largest and best known are the U.S. Health Department hospitals at Lexington, Kentucky, and Fort Worth, Texas. Can I have your name, please?
Kenneth Chapman,
And your age
44.
and your occupation?
I'm a psychiatrist, chief of the Psychiatry Branch, Division of Hospitals of the U.S. Public Health Service in Washington, D.C.
And your responsibilities would include the Federal Narcotics Hospital at Lexington, Kentucky. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yes, sir. Also the one at Fort Worth, Texas, although my headquarters are in Washington.
What happens to an addict who seeks admission to either Fort Worth or Lexington?
He's examined to determine whether or not he's an addict. When that has been determined, he's admitted and withdrawn from narcotic drugs over a period of 5 to 7 days.
Then what happens to him?
He is examined intensively by the staff during the next 2 to 3 weeks to determine his psychiatric assets and liabilities, his vocation abilities, his skills, his training and background, and such other physical disabilities that he may have that may interfere with his adjustment.
And then the period of therapy begins?
Yes, shortly thereafter.
For the first step, I guess, in therapy is to make him learn to live without drugs.
Yes, that is one of the biggest problems, teaching him how to learn to live, eat, sleep, and work and play without drugs.
Just what is an addict like, Doctor? Do their problems fall into types?
No, other than the types one commonly finds in other psychiatrically ill people. They differ from these people in that they try to solve their problems through the use of drugs.
And how important is early treatment?
Very important, for 2 reasons. First, the use of drugs in the present day inevitably leads to crime in order to support the habit. On the other hand, and of a more long-term importance, is the personality degradation which results from long-term use of narcotic drugs.
Is it ever too late for treatment?
No, it's never too late for treatment. I've seen some real old-timers come into the hospital after 10 to 15 years of continuous effort, trying to do everything we could for them. All of a sudden, it clicks, and they stay off drugs.
Doctor, you're a scientist and a level-headed man. I'd like to ask you, in the light of your experience, what do you think about narcotics?
Well, I've seen thousands of addicts, and I never saw one yet who got the happiness out of drugs that he thought he was going to. As a matter of fact, drugs don't solve problems, they create problems.
Well, Dr. Chapman, thank you very much for your cooperation. The picture that's been painted here tonight isn't very optimistic, and unfortunately it's an accurate picture. But there's a man I'd like you to meet. I think he has an important message for the addict. Can I have your first name, please?
David,
And your age?
24,
And your occupation?
commercial artist.
What do you know about narcotics, Dave?
I was addicted to the use of heroin for 6 years.
And when did you first take it up?
When I was 17.
How did it happen?
Well, I guess it was curiosity more than anything else.
Did you have it get bigger as time went on, Dave?
Yes.
How big?
At one time I was shooting about 4 or 5 grams a day.
That would be equivalent to around 40 or 50 caps, wouldn't it?
That's right.
What'd you do to get the money?
Oh, many things, mostly burglary.
Did you serve any time?
Yes.
How much?
Altogether about 2 years.
What's the worst thing about a narcotics addict, Dave?
You can't move, you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't talk. You're like a car without gasoline.
Is there any specific memory that stands out for you?
Yes, there's one bad one. I remember walking the streets one night, sick, and I walked into this bowling alley. I remember seeing this community chest cancer fund bottle sitting on the counter. I tried to steal it, and I got caught.
What'd they do to you?
That's the worst part about it. They let me go.
Dave, how long has it been since you've had a fix?
20 months.
How come?
Well, I made a decision to quit, and I met some people that helped me keep that decision.
What kind of people?
These people were alcoholics.
You mean Alcoholics Anonymous?
Yes.
And through this program you've been able to stay away from narcotics for 20 months?
Yes.
How do you feel, Dave?
I feel wonderful, better than I've ever felt in my life.
Still got the yen?
No, that left me after the first 3 months.
What do you think are your chances of staying off narcotics for good now?
They're 100%, as long as I don't take that first fix.
Well, Dave, I want to wish you all good luck, and I think you're going to have it. Thank you.
Every community in which a narcotics problem exists, and that means every major American city, should have an addict rehabilitation program. I don't know whether it should be on a national, state, or a local basis. I do know of one such plan which was designed for state administration, and I think it's a good plan. I'd like to tell you about it. A state narcotics commission composed of doctors, psychiatrists, penologists, and laymen would be appointed by the governor. Upon conviction of a narcotics violation, the addict would be turned over by the court to this commission. He'd be hospitalized immediately for a minimum of 90 days. When the addict is considered
psychologically and physiologically prepared, he would be released from the hospital, but not freed. For 5 years, he would remain in technical custody of the commission. He would receive psychotherapy at outpatient clinics. He would receive regular examinations to determine whether he was using narcotics in any form. If the addict did use narcotics again, he'd be returned to the hospital for further treatment. Now, maybe this sounds awfully expensive to you. It would cost a lot of money. But when you stop to think that virtually every bindle of heroin the addict shoots is bought with stolen money, or money derived from stolen goods, a program of this kind doesn't seem so ridiculous. Basically, the idea is this. Instead of committing the addict to jail, he'd be committed to recovery. And now, here's a final message from the sponsors of Confidential.
You have just witnessed another authentic report by Paul Coates, distinguished columnist and news reporter. These factual reports are brought to you each week by this station. The opinions expressed by Mr. Coates and the participants in this program do not necessarily reflect those of station or sponsor.